As a founder, one of the things that I've bumped into either with other founders or I myself is in order to actually affect change and build a company and build a startup, there needs to be this constant tread of urgency. And this is urgency of we're running out of runway if
Mm,
you're
mm,
fundraising, or even if you're bootstrapped, we're
mm,
running out of money unless we
mm,
close another
mhm.
client or we kind of keep going. And so a theme that I've seen and I've felt it myself is this kind of social aspect of connecting and chit chat and things that, as it relates to the business, could be deemed as non-trivial, right, or not useful or not important. It's kind of this okay, we don't have time for that, we got to get down to business, we got to talk about such and such and such. How do you, maybe with coaching, how do you help find help founders find the time to connect with employees, with teams, with direct reports on that more personal level, and not be so anxious about, okay, well, is this a productive use of time?
Yeah. Um, where do I start with this? So I'll go top down. It depends on the founder, to be very honest, because some founders are find this more natural and they want to do that. So you have to do less coaching. Every founder is different, and some founders are on the other end of the spectrum, and also cultural differences and the country they're in. I think also plays into a very plays very much into the leadership style as well. And I've learned that from being international. That was an amazing experience doing that. So you've got all those dynamics to work out what type of founder you're dealing with and what are the sort of gaps there or things that can enhance their performance and so forth that they come to you with. Um, but let's go top down first. Let's talk about their leadership team. So look, this is a bit controversial what I'm about to say, but if you are a leader reporting into a founder, I'm going to be very honest, you have to kind of be used to not having recognition and a pat on the back every 2 minutes. And if you are that type of person, you're not right for a founder because, you know, founders who change the world are two types on what's called an Enneagram more often that I find, which is basically like different types of personality types. One is a challenger personality, which is me. I'm not happy with anything. And we should always be doing more and look at that hole there and so forth. And I'll find the one thing that's a problem in the data and all that. So it's those types of people. Or there's the second, which is the enthusiast, which I think is more like your Richard Branson type. So very much the visionary, so forth, right? And both of those personalities, because they're kind of either looking out all the time or, the challenger by innately is not happy with everything, you've got to be used to they're the type of often personality types you're working with. So, their default position isn't going to, they have to consciously go into recognition, consciously go into all that sort of stuff. And there's always more that can be done. That's as simple as that. So when you're in a leadership role, you just have to have that kind of maturity and that self assurance and awareness to be confident in your own self, to be really at that sort of table, I think, with a founder, because they're not really, you don't really get managed in a leadership role when you're reporting to a founder. They're not great managers, and perhaps shouldn't they be? Fair enough, we can go into that another time, although there's a leveling up to an extent you need to help them with. And yeah, if you are someone that needs a lot of credit as a leadership skill in the startup, then that's a problem, because you just have to have the satisfaction of knowing that your work is achieving greatness as the mission. That kind of has to be enough when you're a leader, that the mission is kind of greater than the CEO and greater than all of us. And that's a really strange thing to kind of be, get used to if you're a leader in those types of roles. I don't, and I think I strangely have worked with these types of leaders all my life, where maybe once a year, in sales in particular, like you'd be a top biller and you'd work your guts out, and you just get at Christmas just that one pat on the back, well done, and that's all you need. You just know you had a great year, and you're like close to being irreplaceable at that point, and you don't need more than that. But you have to get to that place of maturity in yourself and EQ to be comfortable with that. But then, there are times then more broadly of like what is even a recognition strategy, because it is motivating, right? In the systems design that you talk to about a founder of this concept, and you say, look, there are some wider things we really need to think about. we're all pushing very hard here. This is the milestone or the North Star we want to hit for the A or whatever. What are we going to plan and do? And yes, they can delegate that down, but they have to recognize that we need to celebrate milestones. That's very, very important in a startup as the company-wide recognition. So, we can delegate that across leaders, whoever we want, but that has to be part of, it doesn't even have to be a big budget, but we need to do something to recognize that and, come back as a team, even if it's like one team. And then, some of those micro behaviors, of course, you want to see in the founder because it does scale to an extent if they, founder behavior is a huge part that people look up to and will start doing. And that's, it's all around the founder for the first, few years and early rounds. But what you want to do then with the founder again is always make sure that they understand key milestones in the leadership journey, and that usually, as I said, that 1 year pat on the back or that one thing. If they execute on their 90-day plan, you should give them some more formal feedback and so forth, and talk about how that's motivating. And what I tend to find, even as a leader myself, which I say to them is, often the early careers hires need lots of that. Why is that important? Because it builds confidence. So for early careers, what you're trying to do is build confidence. I want people to feel confident in the work, that they'll take a bit more risk, then they'll take these things and so forth. So I want to give that sort of recognition and feedback. But when you're more senior, the milestones are longer. This execution roadmap is longer, which they're going to have that pat on the back on. So it might even be, like I said, the end of the year, well done, that's it. So it's horses for courses, but you talk about all these things at length with the founder so they can kind of work out what their best recognition style is, what they're more comfortable with. I think the key thing is with them as coaching is to work out, you have your way that works, but the founder is any leader, they've got their own style. So you have to work out what's the thing that's comfortable that probably will have impact on the people around them, but still in their comfort zone, that's not too far out of it, and they slowly can build on that over time. Yeah,
it's phenomenal. I feel like I learned so much about myself in just this moment of you kind of explaining a few different things. I'm like, yep, check that box, not that box, but this box. So yeah, this has
what's your
phenomenal.
thoughts on that? I'd love to know. What tell me, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's confirmation of a few different things, such as founders generally struggle with management. Again, I do think that there are many founders that level up into that CEO or that executive as the company scales, but it does take a shift and change and growth.
Yeah.
And it also takes an appetite to want to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I've never actually heard about the kind of 2 enneagrams specifically for founders. I've heard about that framework, but I've never really gone too deep into it. But the challenger framework or the challenger persona, and then also the enthusiast or the enthusiastic person persona, those are, as I look back across all the different companies that I've started and all my co-founders and myself, it's those 2 buckets. It is without a doubt those 2 buckets. So I think that's very, very spot on, and it's just interesting to hear how that then emanates down to the leaders and what that relationship is, and then on downwards into the company in general, and how the founders set the tone for what the rest of the team looks to. So yeah, it's phenomenal.